Hey, welcome back to the CRP. Miguel Dorati here, and it is late night, October 2nd, and that means AEW's Dynamite on TNT show is in the books. I'm joined by Snake Eyes to do a review. The kickoff show for AEW is finally here. Obviously, we got some work to do tonight. Watch NXT, come back, but we want to hit with this review first. Like I think a lot of people, we watched AEW first. We were just curious and had to go that way. And I'm glad I did. But AEW's been, building up to this, but it's all of a sudden it was here. And in the last 24 hours, they've done some media conferences and done the round of appearances and stuff. I'm going to let Snake Eyes fill in the people on some of the news that came from there. And then we will review AEW's Dynamite show on TNT, the debut show that is in the books as of just a couple of hours ago. Snake Eyes, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It was weird. I had to watch the first AEW show without the audio, so I'll explain more about that later. But yeah, as you said, they were doing a lot of media. Cody Rhodes was doing a lot of talk shows yesterday, and they did one big media call with a couple of journalists, and a couple of the details that kind of came out of that was they don't want to run monthly pay-per-views. They want to do maybe they said either bi-monthly or even quarterly pay-per-views. So I mean if we think about it, that'd be all in, all out, full gear, and then either Fighter Fest or something in between all out and all in, I would assume. Cody also said that they've only really shown us 80% of their roster. Um, Obviously we had a debut tonight on Dynamite, which we'll get to later tonight as well. Um, and there's going to be an AEW Plus app for the people overseas to be able to watch the AEW show live if they don't have TNT or a way to watch AEW. So I thought that was pretty spectacular. That even though they shouldn't have waited until the day beforehand to kind of bring out that information, but kudos to them. They're moving fast to try to get the AEW app going as well. So a couple of big media things from yesterday, but overall everything led up to history tonight.
Yeah, so the show kicks off on TNT, and fireworks sort of started from the very beginning. We knew the kickoff show, the kickoff match rather, was going to be Sammy Guevara against Cody. Cody, obviously, I think doing a great job as the face of the company and stuff. So bringing him out first, probably the most recognizable guy, makes sense. Guevara, definitely a guy that I think has the potential to be around for a long, long time in this sport. And giving him that spot, I think, sort of means that people on the AEW side also see that potential there. And I think that's what you had. You had a kid with a lot of potential there. I don't know if I like uh, I knew Sammy Guevara uh, is a pro wrestling heel. He gives the finger and that whole thing. But man, he could be a baby face that you could run with. I really feel that he may be miscast there, but I think at the end of the day, he had a good match with Cody. I'll let you break it down a little bit. I know that it didn't go perfect in terms of in-ring action. There may have been a little blotch here and there that I'll let you criticize, but at the end of the day, he went firmly for the heel side, got back involved in there, and more power to him. I think Guevara is a future star, but he had babyface written all over him, man.
Well, I agree. They're definitely missing the boat on merch sales for Sammy Guevara. He's a good looking young man. He's got a hipster haircut. I mean, he's got a good gimmick. He's got a good look. He's got good in ring skills, minus a couple of botches. Which, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I had to watch the show without volume. So my main focus was literally the wrestlers painting the picture in the ring. So I work at a sports bar, and obviously they wanted the jukebox to play music during pool league night. So there's my background to why there was no audio playing on the TV, which I'm actually going to watch AEW again before I watch NXT. So just so I can hear it. But yeah, Sammy Guevara, I mean, that's the one thing a couple of the bar patrons said too, like, oh, he kind of messed up there, huh? Now, they obviously looked at me being a wrestler, and I said, yeah, that was a slip up. And I said flat out, this is the one thing, unlike WWE, you're gonna see. You're gonna see more botches in AEW because they're not sitting there working 4 days a week against each other. They are literally only going to do one show a week, except for weeks where they have a pay-per-view event. So I mean, there's going to be a couple of slip ups because they're not going to practice as often as people. I mean, WWE's got a training facility to use, and they have a spare ring backstage at every live event for tryouts and everything else like that. These guys are basically day of, maybe the day before, getting together and talking it over and figuring out what they're going to do.
Well, with TV production, hopefully, some of that gets worked out and they get some practice time. But I do think what you pointed out also works the other way too. That with the WWE, if they fight 4 or 5 times, yeah, they're used to each other. The moves become more fluid and things like that. But you also may be operating about 80-85% because you're tired from the 5-day a week grinding schedule. It also takes a little bit of the edge. Here, you kind of have guys more or less fresh. I think the Young Bucks will probably say, "Hey, we weren't that fresh after their ladder match last time," But here you got guys that are coming to the show to be, to do the show with a little bit more pep in the step, kind of thing. At least that's the hope and that's the buzz of what the AEW schedule will bring. So I also think they made a good move, script wise, bringing Jericho out right away, and Jericho loving. I heard Jericho talking about like he's modeling himself after you know several different guys, but he's acknowledging that he's putting on weight and he now wants to be a little bit bigger, and a little bit, style wise. The guy he referenced was Stan Hansen, and I'm all for that. Be as mean a son of a gun as you want to be, and he showed that up this time. They were like they took a commercial break, I think, and they came back and the fight was still going on. That may have been there was a lot of extracurricular activities and stuff, but the point is bringing Jericho out right away. I think was a good move. The caveat to that is, I think Cody Rhodes had been, in public saying, if I lose to Sammy Guevara, I won't get the title match, and that's subject to change, and that's exactly what it means in this world that wins are going to matter and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that all just turns into blah 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 talk because we're going to get what we thought we were going to get the whole time. It was okay talk, but they were heading in that direction anyway. I think Cody, you got to keep in mind they're going to ask you to pay full gear pay-per-view. I think Cody and Jericho makes the most sense right now. So I think we'll firmly get that. We'll talk more about that little brawl there, as it played out on the rest of the show. From any final words on the opening act there?
Having Jericho come out right away too. I mean, you're showing off the title to new people, new viewers, new eyes. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people set their DVRs to NXT. So again, yeah, just like you said, it's a good move to bring out the champion. But my main question is Cody a heel or is Cody a babyface? Because the crowd treats him like a babyface, but he does a lot of heel tendencies. Brandy interfering, everything along those lines. I don't understand quite yet what they're trying to do with Cody. If I obviously going against Jericho, you're going in as a babyface, but then you can't have Brandy interfere. I don't. Maybe this is one of those performance art pieces that
Yeah,
I'm not understanding.
yeah, I agree that there's some confusion in some of that delivery. I'm not sure um, that Brandy should be presented as a frontline. Yeah, I'm okay with her having in ring time because I know she's spent time training and wrestling and things like that. And you don't want to just limit somebody. But at the same time, they've already chosen to align her with, Awesome Kong and getting help and things like that. Firmly a heel. And you know, could it be to hide in ring chops? I
Maybe.
think that's a legitimate question, unfortunately, So, she does that. Maybe she will at some point come out and prove, herself and prove me wrong and stuff. But I don't know that I've seen all that much great wrestling from her. But, she's part of the family. And that's where I was headed with this. With Cody, Cody may be, the right guy to pull this all off. It's going to take a special guy. But the bottom line is the way he grew up, around Dusty, and Dusty's reputation as a booker and stuff like that. That was an out of the box, one of the last bookers that didn't just fit into the WWE mold kind of thing, and a touch of the old school and things. His understanding of all that stuff, I think, gives him a real deep knowledge of a history there that the WWE doesn't seem to utilize, right? So I think because of all that and the second generation stuff, I think Cody's got special status in the hierarchy there, and I think that almost lets him get away with some of what you're talking about with the heel and stuff like that. And at some point, they may make that more firm one way or another. But right now, as he goes in against Jericho, I don't think we'll have much of a choice. I think Jericho's happy to play the heel.
Easily, easily.
He's a stud. He's doing great with it too. So then that all goes off. We're going to get back to that because that brawl erupts again, and they went right into MJF and Brandon Cutler, and this is one of those things where I think obviously MJF was going to win, right? So he's a guy there. Maybe MJF now heads in. It becomes a bounce back for Adam Page, and we get that feud coming up. But Cutler, a good performer, but I don't know if I like the presentation they gave on this one. Kind of like I know he's facing the big heel there, but kind of like like he's like a part-time wrestler, like he's a guy who's dabbling in wrestling, and I they could have given him a little more respect than that, I think.
Well, and Brandon Cutler, I don't know if you've ever seen any of his earlier work, but I've criticized this dude for having the weakest stomps in the game. I mean, worse than Lance Storm. I mean, it's just hideous. Anyway, I'm not very big on Brandon Cutler. He just it's like Jim Cornette says, you can't always hire all your friends because they do the same thing you do and like the things you do. Obviously, his role is, being the camera guy for being the elite. That should be his role. Let him help backstage. That's where he's going to help you the most. He stopped wrestling for about 7 years. He just got back into it about 2 years ago. So I mean, he he's still very green in the ring, and it showed tonight when he's working with a monster heel like MJF. And yeah, easily we all knew MJF was gonna win this one. If wins and losses matter, there's no way in hell they were gonna have MJF lose to Brandon Cutler.
Yeah, no, with Cutler, like I said, the whole presentation already paints him into that corner. I would have preferred they give Janela that fight, for example. Joey Janela against MJF. I think Janela, if he's part of the roster and stuff like that, that'd be a perfect role for him. He could take the loss. I think he's gotten to the point where the entertainment value he brings to a fight, and just the nature of the way he presents himself and stuff just would have been for a lot more compelling fight, and he'll take the bump. Cutler, like I said, yeah, they presented him as a B guy from the start. Even the AEW, the whole hey buddy, how you doing? They treat him without a lot of respect. So I could have done without I guess him. And I don't begrudge him his spot and stuff, but if they're smart, they'll limit his use, and he won't be a constant player there. Now, the Salt of the Earth armbar is what finished it there. So we got MJF at a finish, and he's still raw though, don't you think?
Oh yeah. He's he, he's got so many more years to grow and learn as a heel. And another thing I'm going to criticize real quick too is MJF was working on the arm the whole match, and then when Cutler did his comeback towards the end, when he did the dive to the outside, and then he just starts throwing punches like his arm doesn't hurt, and he goes to the top and slipped off. I mean, those are the little things that I'm gonna nitpick apart at. But yeah, I mean MJF finishing with the armbar, that was smart. Cranking on it after the bell, that was smart. All playing the heel, man. He's gonna be such a big star within the next like 2 years. It's gonna be insane.
Yeah, but I think his in-ring stuff holds water there. But yeah, it's the little touches like that that I guess define Cutler from some of the other guys. Now the next fight is a frontline fight. Anywhere you go, and that's Hangman Page and Pac. And Hangman Page is now 0-2 in the big visible fights that he's had. Uh, he's taking one for the team here.
Yeah, here we go. Pac is undefeated right now, and we'll see where that goes. So I would assume if it's Cody and Jericho now, it's going to be the winner of that, and Pac is going to be the next one up. I would assume he's the only one with a perfect record yet. Correct? I mean, that's more than one fight, into the
Yep.
game. This is one of those matches where I kind of saw bits and pieces. But I mean, typical Pac, hitting hard, hitting fast. Hangman Page looking strong. It, it, I just, I don't know what it is about Pac. I just want to say Neville because saying Pac just sounds doesn't roll off the tongue as
Called the
well.
bastard.
The bastard, yes, the bastard. Um, I it again, it's the same moves, just in a different way, and that's one of those things with his matches that I just don't like. They're just predictable. When you see him leading one way, it's normally a combo of moves. I mean, wrestling changes, I get that, but it's just he's just not interesting enough for me right now. I don't know what they can do with him, but they got to find something to keep me. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but whatever.
The thing about Pac to me is that you're talking about a guy the clock is ticking because at some now he's in great shape and stuff like that, but at some point he's not going to be able to do everything he's doing now in the ring. It's just he's inevitably going to slow down. So I do think you sort of should rush him while you have him at the peak of his powers at this point. If there's already been a notable decline, I'm not sure, but if there's already been one, then more reason to bring him along fast because I could see him and Jericho doing a series after Jericho gets done with Cody. I'm just assuming that they won't give Cody the belt because that would be they get accused of being predictable and that sort of stuff. So Jericho and Pac would be compelling.
And that would mean Jericho turn face.
Yeah, exactly. But they are piling. There is some confusion there. You're absolutely right there. But they are piling up the heels here, and the heels seem to be doing well, and the baby faces, seem to be getting drunk on their couch. If you judge by Kenny Omega and his promos and stuff, so we'll see there. Pac with the win over Hangman Page. Hangman Page now similar to Omega, who we'll get to. He's a guy who's looking at now he's got to worry a little bit. Obviously, they're not going to cut him, or it's not the UFC type of uh, importance on wins and losses and stuff like that. But you don't want to rack up the losses uh, this early on in the show. So he's a guy who's going to need a fix quick here.
Right. Yeah. Him and Omega. I don't know what the plan is with them, but something's gonna happen here soon.
Yep, we got the first ever AEW Women's World Title was on the line. The vacant belt hanging in the balance between Riho and Nyla Rose. We've seen both of them before. We've seen both of them get their hands on each other before already in the AEW ring. Uh, I think they delivered a good match. I think I hate to toot my own horn, but I think I was right. Riho's over. The crowd loves it and stuff like that. Now, she weighs about 14 pounds, so they're newborns that are way more than her. So you do have to sort of suspend believability at times there, especially in this matchup. But she just fights with everything she has, and she's fun to watch. So I do think uh, they went the right way here. I think they gave a real pro the spotlight here, as opposed to somebody who's got probably a long future.
Right, and this is the one match that a lot of the patrons at my work were actually paying attention to the TV for. So I thought that was pretty unique that the women's match was the one that caught everybody's attention. Um, And man, those forearms that Riho was giving her in the corner towards the end of that match, oh, those things looked rough. But yeah, when she picked up the victory, everybody was like, "There's no way that little Chinese girl just beat that." And I was like, "Well, technically, she beat a dude, so you know."
Yeah, to clean it all up, right? Technically, she's Japanese, and
Right. Well, that too. Yes, yes. But
you know, all kidding aside, you know what I think happens here, and you make reference to that, but I was recently watching um, an interview, a show about Andre the Giant, and the guys that worked with Andre, they all obviously there's a reverence there. You know, even guys like Hulk Hogan, it's like the guy was unbelievably strong, huge. He was smart. He got it. He was a tragic figure. Nobody disrespected Andre the Giant, and he could make you look good because he would be just yeah, cut loose on me, man. You're not going to hurt me. So guys could go really heavy on him, and I think Riho has every ability to cut loose on Nyla Rose and for it to not, she's not going to put Nyla in the hospital, put it that way. So they could really put on a show, and I think that they did a good job with that. The high flying stuff, her catching her off the top rope from outside and stuff like that. I think they did a good job of, making Nyla Rose look like, somebody who's going to be around for a bit. But this is Riho's moment, and I think, everything I've seen of her, which started with AEW, and the reputation that she has and stuff like that, this is much deserved. This is them honoring a real pro.
for sure. I mean, she was obviously one of a few girls picked from overseas to come over and be part of AEW. So, I mean, she made the ultimate sacrifice of leaving home, first of all. And either way, it's gonna be positive for the women's division. So, I mean, it definitely got a lot of people talking at the sports bar, which is exactly what you want in wrestling is to people be talking. So, kudos to Riho on being the first AEW Women's Champion.
All righty, now we get into the main event. The main event, the elite of Kenny Omega and Young Bucks, who, this brings up all kinds of questions. They took a heavy loss on many fronts here to Santana Ortiz and Chris Jericho. This match was chaotic from the get go. There was a run in by John Moxley that sort of interrupted things, and uh, he put Kenny Omega through a glass table in the back, things like that. Very violent. Again, Omega just you know crashed out. The last time we saw him, he was sleeping thanks to Pac's finishing hold and stuff like that. We're going to explore the depths of Omega before we see, the Phoenix that is Kenny Omega, I think. So we'll see how low they go. But I like it, actually. I like it because, uh, you know, I just don't think that Moxley's coming to take a loss his first fight for AEW. So we'll see.
Well, he is already 1-0. I mean, he did beat Joey Janela at Fighter Fest.
Something.
With that. But yeah, it is funny that you say that every time we see Omega at the end of his matches, he's sleeping. Well, think about it. Double or Nothing, he got FU'd off of the top of the chips through the stage by Moxley. And then, as you said, he was put to sleep by Pac. And now this time he was put through a glass table. I mean, he just keeps getting hit. But I really like Drunk Omega on being the elite. So I really hope they keep this thing going for at least a little while yet. And when that happened, I figured, okay, all right, they're gonna debut a new baby face. They're gonna bring out Punk. This is where they're gonna bring out CM Punk. But again, I was just having my hopes high on CM Punk saving the day again. But it was a solid match. But yeah, it was mostly chaotic with the Moxley stuff, and that took most of the match away. They did do a nice little hot tag comeback, and then obviously the numbers game played into it, and then we had Jack Hager show up and
Yep.
join.
So yeah, the end sequence. So Jericho lands his new finish with the Judas effect, finishes the fight, gets the win for his team, and then the run-ins start like that. You get a 3-on-2 attack. Cody Rhodes runs in to attack Jericho. Cody's dressed in a suit, ostensibly doing post-fight stuff. Once things went wrong there for him, And what happened was Sammy Guevara, took a cheap shot at Cody, and kicked the breadbasket, so to speak, and that caused a run in from Dustin Rhodes. And there was some chaos there, and at the very end, as you said, Jack Hager, formerly Jack Swagger in the WWE, comes in. And I like the opposition or the acquisition of Hager. He was out there and available. Uh, I think he's a good athlete. I think he's a good guy to have on a roster. He's a bigger guy, which is something that'll help with this roster. The other part of it is, though, that he came in as a heel. He came in to help Jericho, and he's firmly on that team now, giving that, Jericho, LAX, or Ortiz and Santana, rather, and Hager. Now, if that's a heel faction, that's a pretty strong heel faction that you can run with. But yeah, they're starting to look short on baby faces, aren't they?
Right. I completely agree. So they're gonna have to start debuting a babyface or two here now, coming next week.
Well, what do you think? You think we get some, a 6 to 9 month run out of Dustin? Dustin showed up, to save the day for a little bit in the run in at the end there, in full gear, in full, paint, makeup, and body gear and stuff like that. Whereas Cody ran in a suit. So, that to me hints that he hasn't quite let go of his in-ring persona. It almost would have made more sense to have both Rhodes brothers run in with suits. You know what I mean? And that would have liberated, some of the gold dust and, some of the other stuff, put it behind him, but maybe he wants to keep it around. So, I don't know what kind of liberties he has. He was red, he wasn't gold, or, there wasn't any gold dust, mentioned or anything like that. But it was sort of weird that he showed up in full regalia.
Yeah, when he first ran out, I was like, oh, well, and then I kind of made sense that, he's probably trying to reach the mainstream audience that only knew him as Goldust. So that's why he probably came out in full gear, full paint. I mean, just to try to get that. It looked like the crowd popped pretty good. Like I said, I wasn't able to hear it, unfortunately, but it looked like the crowd popped pretty good for it. Him and Cody had a barn burner of a match, and then the Bucks against the Rhodes brothers was a hell of a match. I mean, Dustin can go. It's just they need to let him go. I mean, I see a good 6 month yet. I would say next year probably will be the end of Dustin in ring, at least. Obviously, he's gonna work backstage for AEW, obviously.
Sure. And to me, too, how do you rescue a Hangman Page, an Omega? It might start with going through Dustin, and then starting to build the wins from there, because they're going to need, a streak at some point, and that involves bodies and stuff. And Dustin, at this point in his career, I love, I buy into the whole Rhodes fan. I love those guys and everything they've done. I think that when they hand you something like Goldust as a gimmick, that he was a monster with that gimmick, with a horrible gimmick. He played it with absolutely no shame, and more power to him. You know what I mean? A lot like his daddy. His daddy really didn't give a f. And I think that's how I always took Goldust. So more power to him, but there's only so many guys that you can say, look, out of respect, let's give him a title run and stuff like that. Jericho, okay, Dustin. Yeah, I hate to say I don't know if he measures up, but I would think he'd be in a nice spot, putting over some of the younger guys, and he could show off and do some chops without inserting him into a title run or a title picture, which I think would be not the right way to go with it.
Right, completely agree. His championship days are way behind him. I mean, I'm not dogging on Dustin Rhodes at all, because I loved Gold, especially the early years of Goldust when he was that raunchy, just in your face with it. That's the Goldust that I like, not the PG watered down stuttering Goldust after he got electrocuted tag teaming with Booker T. Okay, let's get that straight. But yeah, I see him. Maybe that is the catalyst for Omega or Hangman when they need to turn it around.
Or both.
Or both. Yeah, agreed. Or both.
And I think that's where the 80% of the roster thing will show itself too. We're still looking for that. Hager was a nice ad. There were not that many other surprises, but all of a sudden, Hager, Pac, Moxley, You know, then you've got Omega, Hangman Page, and the Young Bucks and Cody kind of in the middle and stuff. They have a pretty good upper tier. There are a few finishing touches that need to be there to get refined there, and if to get, like you said, maybe a couple more babyface types into that mix, so that right now it's just like Omega and company and the Young Bucks and stuff are overwhelmed, man. They just keep taking loss after loss, and they didn't, here in the main event of the first TV show, they were what they Omega and the Bucks were practically an afterthought in the fight. They was all about the run in and bringing in Hager and bringing in, Jericho and Cody again and stuff like that. And Omega, the Young Bucks, did the work.
Right, right. They took the beat down the whole match. I mean, they put in the work, and I mean, you wouldn't. I'm sure everybody assumed that when they were gonna hit TV, that all of the top guys were gonna win. The Bucks, Omega, Cody. I mean, I'm sure everybody thought that, and we have the almost exact opposite. We have the Bucks, losing. We have Omega losing. We have Hangman losing. Cody's the only one that's really standing out of all of them, which to me I didn't see coming. I figured at least the Bucks would have, or even just Omega. So I mean, I'm interested to see where this all goes and see if maybe they just want to put the young guys over and maybe be done in 2 years. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely going to get interesting. We'll see how it goes. Now, next week, what do we have on the schedule for next week? Are you ready with that?
I don't have my notes, so let's you fire it off and let's chit chat. I know we have the tag team title or tag team tournament starting. Oh, I froze.